Imagine you run a pharmacy in New York City. Every month, you order a batch of cancer medication from a manufacturer in Mumbai. It flies out of India, stops briefly at Dubai, and lands at JFK within 18 hours. You have done this for years. It works like clockwork. Then, one morning, your supplier calls. The shipment is delayed. We are rerouting through Istanbul. You ask, how long? 6 days? Maybe 8? For most cargo, 8 days is an inconvenience. But for a cancer biologic that requires cold chain transport, a drug with a shelf life measured in weeks, 8 days is the difference between the medicine and waste. And the cost, 3.5 times what you paid last quarter. This is not a supply chain story, this is geography story. To understand what is happening, you need to picture a map. There are three major air freight corridors that connect Asia's manufacturing base to Western consumers. One runs through East Asia up through Anchorage, one runs through Europe, and the third, arguably the most important, runs straight through the Gulf. Mumbai to New York via Dubai. The route is roughly 13,000 kilometers and takes under 20 hours. It is fast, efficient, and for decades it has been one of the most reliable freight paths of Earth. Dubai International Airport alone was the world's busiest airport for international passengers. Hamad International Airport in Qatar, Abu Dhabi, Kuwait. These were not just travel hubs, they were the backbone of global air freight. Now they are either shut down, operating at a fraction of their capacity, or considered too dangerous to route through at all. Gulf air capacity has dropped by 79%. Let that sink in. Not to 20%, not 50%, 79% of an entire global corridor gone. So, what is the domino effect? So, where does the cargo go? It reroutes through Istanbul, through Singapore, through Anchorage, taking what used to be an 18-hour journey and turning it into a 4 or 5 day odyssey across half the planet. Every alternative routes add transit time. Every extra stop adds handling fees. Every extra kilometer adds fuel cost. And then there is insurance. War risk premiums for aircraft transiting Gulf airspace have exploded. Cargo insurers look at a flight path crossing Iraqi, Kuwaiti, or Qatari airspace the same way maritime insurers look at a tanker trying to cross the Strait of Hormuz, and they price it accordingly. The result? Air cargo rates from India to the United States are off between 200 to 350%. And here is the part that surprises most people. This is not price gouging. Airlines are not getting rich. Freight forwarders are not taking advantage of the crisis. This is just the market doing what the market does. Pricing the elimination of the shortest route between 2 points on the globe. Now, you might be thinking, okay, air freight is expensive, but is not that what sea freight is for? Normally, yes. Sea freight through the Strait of Hormuz is a slow but affordable backbone of India to West trade. But sea freight through Hormuz has collapsed by 97%. Ships are rerouting around the Cape of Good Hope, the southern tip of Africa, adding 3 to 4 weeks to every voyage. So the logic was supposed to work like this. Sea routes get disrupted. The most time sensitive cargo moves to air. Air is the emergency bypass. But here is the cruel irony of this situation. The air bypass and the sea blockades share the same geography. Both pass through the Gulf. Both are caught in the same war zone. The redundancy that global supply chains were built on, the idea that if one route fails, another takes over, has failed. Because the architects of that redundancy never planned for both corridors to go down at the same time. Let's understand who gets it first. The industries feeling this most immediately are the ones that can't wait. Pharmaceutical intermediates from Indian manufacturers, the raw material that go into the generic drugs that fill your medicine cabinet. These have shelf lives measured in weeks. They cannot sit in a warehouse in Singapore for a month waiting for a viable route. Cancer biologics requiring cold chain transport have the narrowest window of all. A delay is not just a cost problem, it is a patient care problem. Electronic components from Southeast Asian fabs face the same squeeze. A semiconductor fab in Malaysia ships components to an assembly plant in the US on a just in time schedule. That schedule was built around 18-hour Gulf routing. It was not built for a 5-day reroute through Anchorage. Let's understand the hidden timer. Here is what makes this situation particularly dangerous and particularly misunderstood. You probably have not noticed any of this yet. Shelves are stocked, pharmacies are filling prescriptions, electronics are shipping, everything looks fine. But what you are seeing is inventory, stocks that is ordered, paid for, and shipped before the rates exploded. That pipeline has a lag, typically 4 to 8 weeks between when the cost is incurred and when it shows up in your life. When that inventory depletes and replacement stock arrives at 350% of last quarter's freight cost, it will appear in one of three places. In the next quarterly earning reports as margin compression, in the next CPI print as inflation, or at your pharmacy as a price increase on a drug you have been taking for years. The timer is already running. Most people just can't see it yet. There is a phrase in logistics. The world is not flat. Thomas Friedman famously argued the opposite, that globalization had made geography irrelevant. There's a factory in Mumbai and a consumer in New York were functionally neighbors, connected by invisible highways of trade. What this crisis is exposing is that those invisible highways are not invisible at all. They are physical. They have specific coordinates. They pass over specific countries through specific straits above specific cities. And when those cities are at war, the highway closes. The world is not flat. It never was. We just forgot that for a while. A war closed the strait closed the shipping lane, the shipping lane routed traffic to air, the air routes passed through the same war zone, the bypass failed because the bypass and the blockade were always the same road. If you want to understand the economy in the next 2 quarters, you don't need to watch the stock market. You need to watch the maps.